All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sadko here. Welcome back to the channel. And today I got a whole bunch of good crypto news for you. And just in case you guys were, living under a rock or something, like your SpongeBob rock, like you were lifting it up and you just been under there for like a day and a half or something. Well, holy crap. The price went way above $20,000. We're at $21,900. I actually kind of thought that this would happen, that once we break 20,000, we're actually going to go quite above the 20,000 mark just because of all the sell orders that were sort of piling up at that psychological 20,000 mark. And to be honest, you can't blame people because almost exactly 3 years ago, in fact, 3 years ago, like one less day than 3 years ago, we hit the other all-time high in 2017 of 19,900 and some odd, depending on whatever source you feel like looking at. So the idea was that people were getting a little fearful around this time and figured that if they were going to sell, they might as well sell at 20,000 before it dumps again, if it were dump again. So there was sort of a psychological barrier there. But once that was gone, there probably wasn't that many people with sell orders well above 20,000 thinking that it probably wouldn't get there in the first place. Of course, there definitely was, but not so many. So Bitcoin, after bouncing around 20,000 per Bitcoin for last month, has smashed through the psychological price barrier. The Bitcoin price hitting 20,440 on Luxembourg-based Bitstamp exchange before falling back slightly is up around 200% over the last 12 months, or depending on whatever source you want to check for there, because I think for like a day or something it was 3,800 or something, or 4,000. I don't know, like it dragged down to. Either way, it's up quite a bit. So Bitcoin investors have cheered the Bitcoin price this year, feeling increasingly bullish going into 2021, with many predicting that climb. So let's move on from that onto slightly different news. This is the Grayscale updated purchasing. This is of 12/15. It's the 16th. And once again, like I said, 3 years ago on December 17th was approximately the all-time high. One could say it was kind of the 17th and 18th of December, depending on what you're going to be looking at exactly. But so almost exactly 3 years ago, which is really weird. So like 3 years later, we have a new all-time high, almost to the day. But the Bitcoin trust in Grayscale is now up to $10.9 billion. And that's up a good, I think, 600 or 700 million from the last time I had one of these. I think the last update they had was on the 12th, or maybe it was the 11th. And everything else is pretty normal. Their Ethereum trust is growing quite a bit, though. All the other ones are staying relatively the same, if not decreasing just a little bit. But the Ethereum one is now up to $1.7 billion. So all of these institutions, I was making some videos the other day about hedge funds, insurance companies buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy trying to buy $650 million more of Bitcoin. So we're at an interesting time where the institutions are truly here now, and it's just beginning. I remember years ago talking about Bitcoin and how the institutions will eventually be here, and we were talking about backed Bitcoin exchange, which turned out to be not that helpful for the price of Bitcoin. That was way overhyped, but the institutions have definitely arrived, and PayPal released their third-party Bitcoin holder buying it up. It's getting pretty intense how much Bitcoin is actually being bought. But Bitcoin, I kind of like to say that Bitcoin is kind of like trying to reach light speed. And you're like, wait, what does that have to do with each other? Just bear with me just a second. It doesn't really matter how much money you have. The more Bitcoin you buy, the more the price is going to increase, and therefore you're buying less and less with that same dollar amount. And it's just going to keep increasing and increasing, and still just always get away from you, because you're always just trying to buy and the price is going up away from you. Because so buying in is the act of raising the price, which causes you to buy in less the next time, even with the same amount of money. In the same way that light speed, if you're trying to go faster and faster, your mass is increasing and your mass is increasing, and you just can't reach it. You just can't get to that point. And that's kind of what the institutions are doing. They're just turbo powering the price of Bitcoin up. and they're just continuing to buy it, but they're actually buying less and less and less with their money every time. And that's going to be an issue in the future for the regular person. So like the rich are always going to find a way and always have more money than you to buy something that is going to make them money. And Bitcoin started off for the people, by the people type deal, like sort of an altruistic thing that you're supposed to mine on your computer and use little bits to spend on the internet or to give people as prizes or something, or donations, etc. And once that became worth really good money, that's when the ASIC manufacturers came in, and then once it was worth a lot of money, that's when the institutions are going to be here. So the problem I see in the future is that, sure, your Bitcoin is going to be worth a lot of money, but with hyperinflation occurring all throughout the globe, when you go to sell, then you're just going to get money, and you're going to spend that money, and then it's going to be very difficult for you to actually buy back into Bitcoin because the price is so high that now you're just going to be buying mere Satoshis with the same amount that you could have bought, like half a Bitcoin or a tenth of a Bitcoin, something like that in the future. So hodl on. I promise you, you're going to want to keep your Bitcoin. It's going to be rocketing up in price a lot here. So, moving on to some different news, and then we'll get to the institutional news. Trump is reportedly considering a pardon for Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht. So, Ross Ulbricht was the Silk Road founder. He went by the name Dread Pirate Roberts, and he basically made this, in case you don't know, the Silk Road. I think it was in like 2013, the Silk Road, or maybe 2012. But either way, you made the Silk Road, and you were able to be able to buy drugs and weapons on there. And some people say there was other things on there, but other people disagree with that. And this guy went to prison serving a double life sentence without the possibility of parole, which, don't get me wrong here, if you're running a dark net website selling all of that material, you got to understand that, the FBI they're probably watching you, right? Like, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, if I had a friend come up to me and he was like, hey, I'm going to be running this website and making Bitcoin, and I'm like, oh, what's it about? He's like, I'm selling drugs and weapons. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to sound like like a Nancy here, but that's probably not a good idea, man. You're definitely going to go to prison. Nah, I'm not going to go to prison. Yeah, double life sentence. But I feel like that life sentence, I think a lot of people feel like that double life sentence without the possibility of parole is a little harsh. It was pretty clear that he was sort of one of those people that did a crime for the first time and like the first genre of that crime, and was made an example of so that other people wouldn't follow in his footsteps. Because if he just got a year, a couple years in prison, well, probably not that bad for some people to be making millions of dollars and then just get out and then spend their Bitcoin. So the U.S. President Donald Trump is said to be weighing a pardon for Ross Ulbricht, the now defunct dark web marketplace Silk Road, who's serving a life sentence, a double life sentence. It's not in the article here, but double life sentence. So according to a report from the Daily Beast on Tuesday, the White House counsel office has been reviewing the documents related to Ulbricht's case, citing 3 people with knowledge of the matter. The report said Trump was informed of the case recently, as well as the pleas from Ulbricht's allies. Based on the 2 of 3 people familiar with the discussions, the report added that Trump has at times privately expressed some sympathy for Ulbricht's situation. As such, Trump has been considering Ulbricht, among others, for the next round of commutations and pardons prior to the inauguration of 2020 presidential election opponent Joe Biden. Ulbricht operated the Silk Road between 2011 and 2013. The site, once a billion-dollar business used for selling drugs and weapons, was shut down by the FBI following the arrest of Ulbricht in 2013. So again, a billion-dollar operation on the dark web. I mean, like, you're gonna get arrested. Like, it's just gonna happen. So it's, So in 2015, he was sentenced to serving a double life sentence without the possibility of parole. So he was arrested in 2013. I'm not sure if they released him and then he had the trial 2 years later. I really don't know the story exactly of when his trials were, but effectively he's been in prison at least 5 or 6 years, possibly 7 or 8 years, and I don't know, kind of good enough. I mean, it was a bunch of adults on the website choosing specifically to buy these products, and I think adults should be able, for the most part, be able to do what they want to do as long as they're not harming other people. And it was probably safer than going downtown to a place you don't know where you could get robbed or killed over such a thing. So hey, it's better than that. I'm not advocating for it, but it's better than that. So I think it's about time. Fair enough. So now to some institutional news. Just a few of them. I've already gone over that Grayscale has nearly $11 billion in Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, I think, has hundreds of millions. They're looking to buy 650 million more. There's an insurance company, Morgan Creek, Massachusetts something mutual, has bought like $100 million in Bitcoin. They can't buy so much. A lot of these companies actually cannot buy a certain amount of Bitcoin compared to their portfolio of other investments, just because they're obligated as an investment institution to diversify. If they don't diversify enough, then they'll be downgraded or punished in some way because they have all their risk in one thing. So Bitcoin smashes JP Morgan market cap 3 years after Diamond dissed crypto. Oh, that juicy, saucy karma. Although it probably doesn't affect Jamie Dimon that much because he still has, like $1 billion, like billions of dollars. So it's probably like, again, if I was Jamie Dimon, I'd just go, still got billions of dollars. But for us little people in the Bitcoin world, still good karma. 3 years after JP Morgan Chase boss Jamie Dimon called Bitcoin a fraud, the cryptocurrency has overtaken the investment bank in terms of market cap. Indeed, Bitcoin today is having a field day, smashing a new all-time high price. The market cap of the world's biggest cryptocurrency now stands at $383.9 billion, which is actually probably more by the time of me reading this. And JP Morgan is currently at 367 billion, so smashed it pretty well. Now the market cap of Bitcoin is 406 million, so it went up 406 billion. It went up that fast. So the market cap of Bitcoin is also higher than that of the Procter and Gamble company, Mastercard, Netflix, and Bank of America, to just name a few. And somebody types, "Sorry at JP Morgan, we just stole your spot." So the 14th biggest market cap. I'm not sure as compared to what. It's just a short little picture there. But since the cryptocurrency crashed and come back stronger, but JP Morgan CEO still isn't a fan. Hey, fair enough, Jamie Dimon. You still got your billions of dollars. So again, like if I was in Jamie Dimon's situation, I would just be like, meh, still got my billions. I'm gonna go on my yacht now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go into the international waters on my yacht. I don't care. But again, for us small people, super awesome. Moving on, hedge fund One River to hold $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2021. Now, not as big as Grayscale, obviously, at nearly, let's just call that $11 billion in Bitcoin alone. However, One River Digital Asset Management, one of the best performing hedge fund of the year, has disclosed a massive Bitcoin bet. Currently owns $600 million worth of Bitcoin and expects its crypto holdings, which include Ethereum, to swell to a 10-figure sum in early 2021. Now, are you guys kind of getting this? Why Bitcoin is now at the price that it is at? It is nearly at $22,000 with PayPal, Grayscale, and all of these asset management companies now pouring into Bitcoin. This is going to start accumulating very, very quickly. And a lot of these are buying them off of sort of the dark markets of various exchanges. So a lot of exchanges have sort of like a dark market, if you will, a market for like a non-market market, if that's what you want to call it, like Coinbase, and like a custodial market where basically probably all of your fees in terms of Bitcoin trading and things like that go into, and then they can sell millions of dollars of it to these companies that hold on to the assets, so it doesn't affect the market price. However, that is still causing a lot of buying power. Like PayPal, they had to go out and buy a bunch of it, or at least their third-party holding. And all of these, they have to go out and buy it, and that's got to come from somewhere. And if it's not being bought up by these companies, then it's just being sold off, market selling to somewhere else, and then that's going to affect the price. So all of our trading and things like that, all of the Bitcoin is now disappearing, and it's not flowing back in. So we're starting to have a bit of a somewhat of a liquidity crunch here. I remember by 2032, the block reward of Bitcoin is actually, I think, like 0.78 Bitcoin, something like that. So it's less than 1. in just about 11 years. And that's going to be huge. So even in 2024, the block reward is going to be what, like 3.15 Bitcoin? And that's just simply not enough. More than 3 Bitcoin are going to be bought on an average of every 10 minutes, far more than 3 Bitcoin. So the amount of Bitcoin actually pouring into the system is just, it's not going to be the same. So hedge fund CEOs Eric Peters doesn't underestimate the importance of Bitcoin allocation, describing it as generational. There's going to be a generational allocation to this new asset class. The flows have only just begun. And he says there definitely are more risks to this than gold, which has been around for thousands of years, but there's also way more convexity. The bold crypto bet was very timely. Bitcoin surges to a new record high of 20,899, which we know now is even higher than that. And again, with hyperinflation, you might not be able to say hyperinflation, at least with maybe like the United States and the euro and the pound, et cetera, et cetera. But there's many countries in the world that do have hyperinflation, and it went very badly. It went very poorly. Venezuela is going through it. There's hyperinflation in Germany. There's hyperinflation in various different countries throughout the whole 19th century, and even in the 20th century, and even in the 21st century now. People were literally decorating their walls with certain currencies. There's many dead currencies out there. And with the U.S., I read somewhere that the U.S. has basically printed more money this year than it has ever printed in the history of the United States. That's with all the trillions of dollars of printing and things like that, and the bailouts, and the stimulus packages and whatnot. And so the money is worth significantly less. We might not feel it right now, but the money is significantly less. Inflation is supposed to be something like 2 or 3% per year. In reality, it's probably hidden, and the inflation is actually probably more like 9, 10, maybe even 11% or more. And it's not going to last for very long. And eventually, countries are going to want their bonds back from the U.S. or from various other countries. And other countries, including the U.S., are not going to be able to pay their debts. And people are going to start selling off currencies very quickly. And then that forces nations to go into hyperinflation, to just produce and produce and produce, just to keep up with it. And that's sort of a death spiral at that point. You really can't come back from that. It's very difficult to come back from that point. And that's just going to force the price of Bitcoin way higher. And that's another reason why you should be holding on to at least some Bitcoin, because even if you sell the Bitcoin at a high price, you're just going to get US dollars, you're going to get euros or something like that, that are heavily inflated. And by then, everything is going to cost so much more that it really wasn't worth it for you. Moving on. Two different news here. An incoming senator believes Bitcoin is a better store of value than paper and plans to teach Congress how to use it and to reduce the national debt. However, it's not paper money. It's technically cotton, guys. It's technically like a mixture of cotton and such. It's not paper. Paper would just kind of go and tear up and would kind of melt in water and stuff. It's cotton, guys. Just saying. Senator-elect Cynthia Lummis plans to broaden the conversation in Congress around Bitcoin when she assumes in office in January. On an episode of What Bitcoin Did podcast on Monday, the Wyoming Republican said Bitcoin is a great store of value. It can help tackle one of her biggest concerns, the U.S. national debt. Lummis said the U.S. needs to develop a plan to retire the debt and also needs to develop an alternative path in case that fails. I see the alternative half as Bitcoin because you have the ability to invest in something that has the stability in the store of value, Lummis said. The senator-elect said that Bitcoin is a better store of value than paper money. It's sort of a cotton and mix. Come on, it's fair. Because its supply is finite. Currently, there are only 21 million Bitcoins that could be mined. In the case of the U.S. currency, inflation is baked into the Federal Reserve's plan for the U.S. dollar, so it's no wonder that our buying power is eroded, Lummis said. People who are living off their savings and retirement have constantly eroding buying power because of inflation. That will not be the case with Bitcoin. Bitcoin provides a more stable value to people who are either saving now to live comfortably in the future, but also people who are on fixed income or approaching fixed income now. Lummis added that she wants to use her time as an elected official to introduce the topic of Bitcoin to her colleagues in Congress and develop a path for the cryptocurrency to develop alongside fiat money, because she sees it as a greater store of value and a stabilizing mechanism for worldwide exchanges. It's kind of something that frees governments up to say, there is a backstop, said Loomis. If we reach a point where we have overspent so much that things start crashing down, the black swan event occurs with any regard to any fiat currency. There is a backstop available to every government in the world, and that backstop is Bitcoin. Well, the only thing I have against that is that we had a backstop once, and that was gold. However, gold, it turned out that a lot of countries in the world, including the U.S., and it wasn't ever proven because the gold standard was shut down probably because of it, but the fact that there was a gold standard and countries were almost certainly overspending what they actually had in reserves in terms of gold. And at one point, a lot of countries in the world wanted their gold back from the United States. So Richard Nixon was like, no, I'm just going to shut the gold standard down. We're going to stop this where it is. And then we're just going to do fiat money. We're just going to print it. And then that becomes a big problem. And so one of the problems with gold is that sometimes it can't keep up with the actual economy. You need to keep getting more and more and more gold to keep up with the economy and the needs of it. So they just went to the fiat system so they could just print whenever they want and deflate whenever they want, even though there really basically hasn't been any deflations for like 60 or 70 years or something like that. So it's just been nonstop inflation. And so we did have a backstop, and that was gold. But now that we have the fiat system, you can kind of see it with the USA. We have an army base in virtually every country in the world. And how do you think we have that? Because they're just printing money. If we had the gold standard, we wouldn't have the money to support such an operation. It wouldn't exist. So I don't have a problem with the backstop, but what I have an issue with is the fact that if they didn't want a backstop at all, so they got rid of gold, the gold standard, and they're probably just selling the gold to all their cronies and stuff. But anyway, and they got rid of that, then they're definitely not going to have Bitcoin as a backstop, because otherwise they would just bring back the gold standard and have that as a backstop. So I don't know. But Bitcoin, but the problem with gold too is that you don't actually know if there's enough gold in reserves. They can just say, oh yeah, no, we'll loan you this, and they don't even have it, or they do have it, or they don't. You don't know. So Bitcoin, would be better, I suppose, but I don't think they want a backstop at all. Otherwise, they would never have gotten rid of the gold standard. So moving on here, British fund firm Roofer has 550 million pounds Bitcoin bet. So British fund manager Roofer Investment Management last month made a bet on Bitcoin for 750 million. Spokesperson told company Reuters it's one of the largest signals of rising institutional interest in digital currency this year. The allocation of Roofer, which managed 28.3 billion pounds in assets at the end of November, on behalf of more than 6,500 investors globally, acts as a hedge to some of the risks we see in a fragile monetary system. The allocation was made through a third-party manager and represents around 2.7% of Ruffer's total assets. Bitcoin has soared 170% this year. Again, it just changes it every time you read it. So 170%, I've read 400%, I've read 200%. So it's rose a lot. Let's just say that. This year, as investors see in the cryptocurrency a hedge against the risk of inflation, Bitcoin smashed through 20,000 the first time, and jumping to 20,440. And again, this was written earlier, so now it's nearly nearly $22,000. So they're looking to make a 550 million pound Bitcoin bet on Bitcoin as well. So you can just get the idea here that there's just so many articles out there of all these different investment funds and groups, insurance companies, Grayscale. The institutions are here, period. We got PayPal now. The list is growing so quickly that I would have to be writing these down several times a day just to follow the amount of people. That's why we're at 22,000 now. This is why we're going to be maybe 30,000 plus by the end of 2021. There is a stock to flow model of Bitcoin. And so far, it's been very, very accurate in terms of its prediction. And it predicts all the way from what I've seen, like 2040 or so. And by 2021, it predicts by March that we'll be at $80,000. And this has been incredibly accurate so far throughout the history of Bitcoin. And Now, that seems a little high to me. We have certainly heard many predictions in the past that are horribly wrong, including myself, have made insanely wrong predictions about crypto. Basically, everybody's wrong about crypto. They're always wrong. But the stock to flow model is actually pretty good. If you guys don't want to know what it is, I don't have it up right now, but just Google it, stock to flow model Bitcoin. And it shows that by March of next year, so just in a few months, Bitcoin could be at $80,000. And that's an average of $80,000. So it could be higher, it could be lower. And then by the end of the year, it's something like $100,000. And I'm a bit skeptical of that. However, if we are at 80,000 by March, I'm going to be right on board with that stock to flow model. That's for sure. But either way, we're looking pretty good right now. Oh, we are at 22,000. Look at that. Live, guys, 22,000. We just breached it. We're a little over 65, but that's okay. $649 Ethereum. Even XRP faring kind of okay. I mean, technically it's up 26%, which is good, but that was just after a little dip Aruski there. Litecoin at $93. We're about to see that $100 Bitcoin soon, maybe by tomorrow, depending if this price keeps increasing. So it's just it's hard to say if this is going to keep increasing or not. There's got to be a dip somewhere before it gets too high. And this is CoinMarketCap, so the prices are a little off. If you look at an exchange, it's going to be a lot more accurate. But $22,000 now live. But that's all I have for you guys. I just wanted to show you all of those institutions that are buying up Bitcoin right now, and now is still the time to buy. I mean, people had buyer anxiety at that 19,000 mark, and I don't blame them. Even I had a little bit of buyer's anxiety at 19,000. I mean, like, is this buying in at the top? Am I buying in at the top, and it's just going to dump on me, and I'm going to be left high and dry? There was a good chance. You know what I mean? There was definitely some anxiety there, but then once it broke 20,000, those were sort of thrown in the trash, and now everybody knows, okay, we're going up. But that's all I have for you guys. Also, some Coinbase earns still in the description and in the comment section. I think there's one of each, one compound, one band still left. Nobody taking them up. That FOMO is just not there. If you want some free stuff, select those. It's free crypto. Hey, and transport it, transmit it, exchange it for Bitcoin, whatever. Fair enough. But that's all I have for you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Helps me out a lot. Social media in the description below as well. And as usual, I will see you guys next time.